Harm to parrots in captivity is significantly related to their longevity and their need to bond to their flock. We see birds who have been in several different homes, and some of them not very good, and they come to us and their ability to trust is severely compromised. We also need to educate people about the fact that they are not good pets, and they're much better served living in the wild.
We are seeing parrots suffering due to the miseducation and misinformation spread by parrot traders such as pet stores and breeders. Many parrots are living short, unenriched lives, and many more are suffering from many diseases, including liver disease, due to the misinformation spread about their diet. It is time for this neglect to end.
Parrots that come to the rescue are victims of capture and confinement and are often unable to fly. Parrots are not pets. They are wild animals, emotional animals. Many people want to surrender captive parrots, but there are not enough resources to help them all. Let them fly free. No more cages.
In the short time that we've been established, I've witnessed some of the most disgraceful and manipulative behaviour by importers and sellers of birds. Their pros are conning the public into believing they're good when, behind the scenes, they're bringing birds into the country in plastic bottles and discarding dead birds in bins. We were set up after a really painful experience with PPFT. That's a serious, incurable disease that's spread widely as a result of the bird trade. We need to stop seeing birds as a novelty, as disposable, and as something that we own.
When you think about people in parrot rescue, do you ever wonder if they experience trauma? Because most do. For me, it's the emotional trauma. Having these birds come into the rescue, sometimes knowing what they've endured, sometimes not. They all have such different stories and such varying needs. It's very taxing on your heart and your mind. Please stop the trade. Please stop the demand.
The widely accepted standards of care and public perception of parrots' needs in captivity fall far short of what's truly required. These standards of poor care were established by the pet industry decades ago and still persist, making captivity intolerable for parrots. Parrot owners rely heavily on cages, often housing birds in cages that are marketed for their species, but in reality are far too small. Many of the birds we rescue have not been allowed out of their cage in decades. It's commonly recommended in the pet trade to keep parrots as single birds to render them dependent on their human caregivers. Humans are simply unable to provide adequate companionship for a species that spends 24 hours a day with their flock, which means captive parrots live in social isolation much of the time. Breeders encourage the practice of hand-feeding baby birds to ensure a bond between birds and their caregivers, but the truth is, parental deprivation is the most psychologically and behaviorally damaging practice in the industry, resulting in birds who don't recognize what species they are, don't recognize boundaries, and are at high risk for developing behavioral disorders that render them unmanageable in home environments. Hand-reared birds will change with sexual maturity. There are no guarantees that a hand-raised parrot will remain bonded to its original caregiver. When relinquished to a sanctuary, these are the most challenging birds. Our most aggressive and dangerous parrots are products of hand-rearing. Self-destructive behavior like feather plucking and self-mutilation can be rooted in issues like stress, abuse, neglect, and social isolation. But very often, self-plucking and mutilation happens despite the best care people can offer. We at Foster Parrots attribute plucking and self-mutilation to the broader biological stress the captivity inflicts. These animals are unable to engage in natural behaviors and biological directives as dictated by their evolution. They are not eating the foods they've evolved to eat. They lack the social companionship they would have had in the wild. They are unable to choose their own mates, excavate and defend nests, and produce offspring. Most importantly, they are not flying. Every cell in a parrot's body was engineered for flight, but they are not flying, and the damage manifests in obesity, fatty tumors, heart, liver, and reproductive diseases. Tragically, the majority of birds coming into sanctuary from the most egregious situations were actually well loved by their guardians. People simply lack the knowledge and accommodations to properly care for parrots. Poor care is the standard for parrots in captivity.
Hi everyone, my name is Ninin Benedicta and I am a PhD student in Cameroon, studying the African grey parrots and their natural habitats. Over the course of my studies, I have been amazed by the parrots, watching them fly in their natural habitats, watching them interact with one another and with other species, as well as with their habitats. But these parrots suffer from poaching. Some are being captured and sold as pets, while others are being killed for their body parts or to be consumed as a source of protein. But, as Sir David Attenborough said, and I quote, "Saving the planet is now a communication challenge." I believe if we want to put an end to the pet trade, we need to carry out non-stop sensitization on the importance of parrots in their natural habitats and what will happen if these parrots get extinct from their natural habitats. And I believe if we can be able to convince one person to stop poaching, that will be the first step to stopping the pet trade. So with this message, I am sending out my voice to join the voices of others to say, stop the pet trade, stop the demand for parrots, and no to birds in cages. Thank you.
El principal objetivo en Loros Sin Fronteras es lanzar una voz de alerta para detener el tráfico de pericos para el mercado de mascotas, ya que el 90% de estas aves que son atrapadas de manera ilegal muere antes de llegar a un comprador. Esto ha hecho que la mayor parte de las poblaciones estén en grave riesgo de extinción. Tú puedes detener esta cadena mortal diciendo no a la compra de pericos.
Costa Rica is home to some of the last remnant populations of scarlet macaws in Central America. Through conservation, reintroduction projects, reforestation, and education, these populations have been increasing. However, so has the threat of poaching. It's a sad reminder that until the trade on exotic wildlife and keeping parrots as pets in captivity is resolved, that this threat will continue to persist. Macaws are a great flagship species. They show us how healthy an environment is, and with this we can use them to protect not just individuals but whole ecosystems. Each year, macaw conservation receives victims from this pet trade, birds that have been confiscated, being poached as chicks, and sometimes they cannot be rehabilitated or released, so they need to have permanent sanctuary. Over the past 2 decades, Costa Rica has made great progress by linking fragmented populations of scarlet macaws through reintroduction projects, conservation, artificial nesting, and reforestation and education. However, until the major issue is fixed, which is ending the trade in parrots and no more birds in cages, this problem will continue to exist. So we really need to work together to stop this trade, stop parrots being kept as pets, and to bring awareness to people all around the world and empathy for these animals that are being kept illegally when they should be out flying free.